All right, so here we are once again for the few who want to know more about this album, which is ANUBIS GATE's recent album, Covered in Colors, which is all about cover songs that we wanted to do. I thought it would be interesting to do. And we're back here again, Kim and I, Henrik, to talk about how this came about. Yeah, are you there, Kim?
Hello, everybody, or the few, which we don't know.
All right. So part two.
Yeah. So we're going to be handling the second part of the album right now. That means the last 7 songs, and we've reached the song called Atlas, and it's a Coldplay song, and that was your choice, Henrik, and your arrangement, and it's a very interesting one. So why did you choose that one? And tell us something about the guest musicians.
Yeah, we have 5 of them, all females this time again. And it came from one of them. It's my own daughter called Celia. She was taking piano lessons, and she came home and had this song and played the piano for it. And I was like, I didn't know the song, so I thought it sounded interesting. So I found out, and it was Coldplay's Atlas that she was playing. And I thought about it could be interesting to do. And actually, it is kind of the first song recorded for this album, because it was already recorded when we did Covered in Black for a bonus track for that one. And I remember you, Kim, you said you weren't that interested in the bonus track, because what are we going to do with it? We just did the Orbits box set where all these previous covers were on. And so what are we going to do with this thing? But we did it anyway, and I'm happy for it. And when this album came about, it was like, all right, we have a home for Atlas as well. Yeah. So my daughter Celia, she's actually playing the guitar in this one. The piano. Sorry, piano.
I don't know that.
So that's how that came about. Yeah. What can I say more? It's.
Well, I can add that we actually redid the drums, because when you when there's 3 years between the recordings, preferences in how you mic the drums and all that will have changed, because Jacob, who made the drum mix for this album, he also continuously changes the way his methods. So we had to record the drums anew so we could get a match on the drum sound. Otherwise, it would have stuck out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So down in the vault somewhere, there is actually a Jacob Hansen mix of this one from.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. A different drum performance.
Yes. So maybe it will.
Yeah.
Day.
Actually, that. I don't know who has that mix, because I had a hard disk crash, and it was a backup disk where I had all those stuff, and you don't expect your backup disks to go all funky. But so the first minute of the mix is all white noise, because I had to have the hard disk rescued, and not everything survived that process.
But MP3 version exists. I do.
Yeah. Okay, you have that. Interesting. Yeah.
But I don't think I have a better quality. But never mind. So Atlas, came about. Turned out all right, I think.
I think it turned out fantastic.
And actually, it introduces kind of a new interest guitar, actually played by me. It's the Moog guitar. I don't know if you heard about anyone, but
And it I love that sound, and you use it on a couple of other songs on the album too. And it's a very curious instrument, that mute
Yeah,
guitar.
it is. I can get
Uh,
it for you.
yeah, please.
Yeah.
So Henrik is getting the mysterious mute guitar.
Yes.
And it's, what is it? It's a kind of a synthesizer built into a guitar kind of thing, or is it?
It does have the option to go synth as well, but actually it is a never-ending sustaining guitar. You could say that.
That's
It's
that's what it is. It's a sustainer guitar. Yeah.
yes. So when it's plugged in, you can actually feel it vibrating in the body.
So it's a
Like,
kind of it's not a artificially digitally made sustain. It's a kind of vibrating process that prolongs the note.
it is, and yeah, I was lucky to get one because they're all out of production, and I don't know why. Maybe because guitarists are such conservative people that what are we gonna do with this? I don't
Yeah.
know.
And
Yeah.
if it doesn't look like a Strat or a Les Paul, it's not a valid guitar, which I learned playing Parker Fly Deluxes through the years. Everybody says, "Oh, that's an ugly motherfucker."
Yeah. But yeah, that's great. That's great. Oh, let's move on.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah.
The next song on the album. Now we move into the 80s corner section of the album, and one thing that would have been very easy to do because we all love 80s music, and I think everyone in the band think that was an incredible decade for
Mhm.
music. So it would have been very easy to make an album full of that, and I wanted to avoid that. So we kind of limited the number of songs that were actually from the 80s, though some of them crept in anyway. But this song was suggested by Morten, and
Yeah.
and you picked it up from there, Henrik.
Yeah. Yes. I don't know. I think I remember you saying something about. I know. I have a strong feeling about what I want to do with this. Henrik, why don't you take it? Because otherwise it will be too something. I don't know. You handed over to me for some reason, really, that you had a too obvious idea of what to do with it. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah,
So so it's kind of it's just had a riffing onto it, really, and some bars taken out of the chorus.
yeah.
Um,
I was going to mention that. I mean, the time signature in the chorus is really surprising. And what is even more surprising is when I listened to it, I didn't realize you had taken anything out.
you did? Oh,
No, I
right.
didn't. It felt very natural to me when I listened to your demo of it. I thought, okay, well, and it was only because, if I remember correctly, your version went all the way through the to the coda, and that was where it stopped. And I just picked it up from there and did the last minute of it, and I recorded it the bars as they were. And it was only when I kind of listened to it and say, hey, that's actually different. And very cool that it moves into a different time signature for the last minute of the song.
That's when the original
Yeah.
length gets short. I didn't know, actually. I thought you deliberately had done that. That oh, now we need the right chorus at the end. No more bullshit with time. That's
Well,
right.
maybe subconsciously I did it, or maybe I defended myself by saying that. I don't know. But no, that's not how I remember recording it actually. But
Yeah.
uh, yeah, what? Yeah, you're right. I was wanting to do this song and was completely stuck for any ideas about how to do the song, and it might have only now have I listened to Blind Guardian's version of the song, and I think if I did it, it would have been sounded exactly like them. So I'm happy I didn't do it because what's the point of that? But
But
anyway,
actually, it's not my arrangement at all. Thoroughly, I mean, throughout the song, you picked it up. I started it, and you picked it up and added mandolin and stuff. Took something out and stuff. So it's a collaborative thing. This one.
I would say yes. Yeah, very collaborative effort. Yeah.
One of them.
It's yeah, one of many. It's one of my favorite Mike Oldfield songs, if not my favorite. I mean, I love Mike Oldfield, but it's just such a great song. And,
Yeah. So
and so appropriate today, because we're never going to get to France as long as we have this Corona thing happening. So who could have known? Who would have thought?
Originally Morten's pick, yeah, and you were happy, I guess. Oh yeah, to France, yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, actually, yeah, very happy. Yeah, I'm kind of in doubt whether he just said I want some Mike Oldfield, and I thought of doing that, or he specifically mentioned that song. I can't remember now, because this project started 2.5 years ago, maybe, for real. That was so. It's becoming lost in the mist of time.
Anyway, no. All right, let's move on. Fade to Grey, pinnacle song from the New Romantics area in the early 80s. Actually, one more of the one from 1980 that we won here. And you were a great fan of Visage, were you, back then?
Actually, I think it's the only Visage song I've ever heard. But it's always attracted me, the emptiness of the song, and I think that's really it's a really haunting song, and it's very poignant, fade to gray, and sometimes when you grow older, you kind of feel like that's what's happening to oneself, and I used to be so vibrant, and now I'm fading to gray and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's I always loved the song, but it kind of speaks to me more and more as I get older. So that was a fun song to do, and I tried to copy that desolation in the start of the song, kind of the empty feel, and of course we had to have one speaking the French words, because it would have sounded very curious if I had done it. So and you knew someone there, Henrik.
Yeah, I did. And even though my last or middle name is actually French, I don't speak French, so it needed somebody else, and it was another girl that I've worked with in the past on a French project actually, Electroscope. So that was natural for me to ask her, and I just read a review saying that we should have done something else. We should have put some Danish or Icelandic or some weird language instead, someone said. And you could. There's always a lot of possibilities.
I mean, actually, that would have been very cool, wouldn't it? Iceland in this song. Yeah.
Could have done. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Why didn't we think of that?
I don't know.
Another reason to withdraw the album from the shelves of the stores altogether.
Yes, immediately.
Yes. Now we have two reasons. So
I can say something about Fade to Grey. I think I never liked the original, actually.
Okay, yeah, that's surprising to me.
Yeah, I actually hate the song. So when we suggested we did Fade to Grey, I thought, oh no, really, no. But it turned out all right, I think. Visage is a strange. Oh, sorry. A strange band that is kind of a one-hit wonder with people who can't really sing, and it's like more like look at me than great music. Actually, and in some way, I know this can also have a strong output in some ways, and people who can't sing can make great records. But this one, I don't know.
I'm kind of thinking of Visage like a depressive version of the German band called Trio. Actually, it's a kind of, some of it is kind of, performance art and minimalism,
Yeah.
things like that. Trio, they're known for da da da, of course, but there were drums, guitar, and vocal. They didn't even have a bass player, and they were
Oh,
kind of punk band, and that's I think the ethos, even though the trio was more kind of a bit funny, I think their
yeah.
ethos is very similar, actually.
Me.
So that's how I view Visage, actually. And I can only speak from that song because, as you say, to us they were one-hit wonders.
Yeah, I don't know it either. No, I think they only made one record, really, one album.
Visage?
Yeah.
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 They probably did, and that was a hit. But what a hit to me! Very
Yeah.
good song.
I think Mature has written some of it, and on Steam Strange, which was no, never mind. But it was one more new romantic period song turned into metal, and it works. I think it works all right.
I think many
Yeah,
of them does. You could always have done a Depeche Mode number, and
yeah,
that would also have worked. All of those songs lend themselves to being played in many different ways because they are great melodies.
yeah, right,
When
right,
it comes down to it.
right. Yeah. So that great turned out great. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to SATO, old Ozzy Osbourne song, the godfather of heavy metal, maybe, which was another one by Morten that he picked. That was actually, he put his finger down and said, I want to do SATO. Isn't that right? It wasn't.
I think it was, yeah, and it so happened that it is my favorite Ozzy song of all. I love the early Ozzy period. So what a coincidence, huh?
Oh, it actually. I have I listened to Ozzy back then, but I didn't have those records, so I never discovered this until we were gonna do it. So it was interesting. Yeah, but
I think it's easy to say that it's one of the more obscure Ozzy songs. It's not a well-known Ozzy song, but I actually, it might have been one of those that I would have handed over to you and said, I don't know what to do with it. Because I really struggled with making an arrangement for it. And I tried everything. I sat down and played piano and sang along. And I took my acoustic guitar and played along. And I tried to do an electronica version. And nothing worked. It was all crap. And so I just said to myself, okay, I'll do a demo where I go completely against what we do on this album, and I'll just record everything as it is, and then I'll change it. And it never went further than doing a note for note copy.
right.
Even the solo, I've never copied a solo in my life, except this one.
Yeah.
So and that was fun. Randy Rhoads is one of the untouchables. So. So what a great guitar player, even though he's not my fave Ozzy Osbourne guitar player, because that would be J.G. Lee, actually.
J.G. Lee, yeah. Remember him from old days.
But I think we made a good version, and it was very nice to hear you singing it.
Yeah, it's great to sing it as well. And
it's a great song. It's just a great song. And there is nothing... so that's the odd one out on this album to me, because this album was about what can we do with these songs to make them sound like ANUBIS GATE. And actually, the only thing that we could do with this song to make it sound like ANUBIS GATE was play it as it is, and I was very surprised about
that. yeah. And I sing differently from Ozzy, so just that the lead vocals is done by me. look, it already sounds more like ANUBIS GATE, even
Of
though
course, yeah.
the rest is more like the same as the original, right?
And there's no denying, no matter what band it is, that the identity of the band is very much the sound of the vocalist's voice. Of course it is. And
Right.
the Iron Maiden changed when they changed from Paul Di'Anno to Bruce Dickinson, and we've been through some changes too, and of course the identity changes, and that's just how it is. It's not a bad thing. It's just how it is. And you singing to an arrangement that is practically like the not original arrangement of the song still transforms the song.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I mean. And there were some additional backing vocals added
yeah.
as well.
And that
Like
was that kind of lifted the chorus out of sounding just like the original, and that was great.
so that's maybe the biggest difference in the arrangement, except for more distortion on the guitar and maybe some updated sound generally. Yeah. So yeah, great.
So if everybody is wondering why I'm not looking at the screen, it's because we actually prepared some notes. So me and Henrik knows a bit about a bit what to speak about. So I'm kind of looking down on those and making sure I'm not doing anything wrong.
Right.
Yeah, but that is the cue to the next song, I think, before this gets embarrassing. So we are moving on to Aggressive Perfector, which is also the last part of the album. It's a part that we called Oh No They Didn't, because now we're really going into changing the songs. And as
Yeah.
one reviewer, a couple of reviewers have already remarked, on some of those last songs, there is only the lead vocal melody left.
Yeah.
Everything else is completely new.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and you started this one off, and it was also your choice.
Yeah. In 1984, I was completely nuts with this song, and I like the Show No Mercy album as well, but this one in particular, and it was originally from the Metal Massacre Part 3 album, which was a kind of it was Metal Blade Records who did compilations of various artists back then, from '83. So that was our way of getting to know back then what is going on, which are the new acts in this new kind of new to us anyway metal genre. And I found out about a lot of stuff: Death Dealer, Trouble, Metal Church, Tyrant, and Voivod. All were on these Metal Massacre compilations. And on top of that, actually, I had the guy that I played with back then, Per Müller Jensen, who is also you also played with him, and Jacob played with him in
Okay.
Indicator.
Yes.
We knew a guy up in the forest, and he was called Jim. I don't know anything else about him, but he was he was like 4 or 5 years older than us. And he had all the new material, all the new stuff, records from USA. And he was so kind to lend us these albums so we could just take back. I think I'm going to take this one. I'll take this one. And then we came back and it was a great inspiration for us, because we hadn't those money to go and buy all that, so we can just try it out. And it was before no YouTube, nothing was back then. So that was a great inspiration, and that's why I came across Aggressive Perfector and Slayer. And I thought it would be great to take. Now I thought about we're doing some pop songs that are not related to metal at all. Why not take a a metal song from back then and turn it into a ballad instead, right? So that was the idea behind this, and then it came over to you, and you put some things on it.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I remember correctly, it was also kind of like to France. You kind of recorded sort of the first 2 minutes and said, okay, this is the basis, and see what you can do with it. And I sort of snuck in another very well-known Slayer song in there, because if I would also have chosen to do a Slayer song because I love those first 5 albums. You know, it's part of my DNA. Slayer is just great, and and that song that I snuck in there, which is South of Heaven, is the one I would have chosen to cover. So I kind of superimposed my choice on your choice, and that's sometimes that works great. And actually, the basis of your demo was kind of jazzy. You know, it had jazz guitars that went to minor 6 chords and stuff like that. And those guitars are on the album. So if people are curious to know what I'm talking about, they're right there. And there's also that mute guitar solo that sounds so it's completely without effects on it, so it sounds so pure and so near, and then it goes into ambient territory, which was this is kind of like a rewrite of the original cover of original coda of one of the other songs on the album, which is Entangled, and it had a coda like this, and I had done away with that coda instead of just transferring it to this one, I just composed something that sounded a bit like that and put it in as the coda of a Slayer song. And I'm kind of, you'll never hear it, Kerry King, of course, our version, but it would be very, very interesting to know what he think of it. I mean, that goes for many of the covers on this album. I would kind of very much like to know what Mike Stern or what Voivod said about those tracks too. But that was a fun song to manhandle. And I also remember that we kind of went back and forward on the grooves in this song. Should it be a medium tempo song, or should it be a half tempo? And we tried different stuff and put forward our opinions. And
as usual, you put your foot down at the last minute. Said the other thing doesn't work. This is it.
I'm sorry about that. I mean, to me, it just we're talking about the verse that goes into a regular tempo. And to me, it just kind of needed to be lifted before that long ambient thing in the end. It became a bit long in the tooth if it was only a half time. Long, is that even an American expression? Long in the tooth.
I accept it. It's all right. Usually, when Kim he puts his foot down, then hindsight in months after, you realize, he was right. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay. That's part of our work process.
So it turned out all right. Yes.
It's great.
Let's go further to the last 2 bits, which are also in the "oh no, they didn't" category. And another thing about the "oh no, they didn't," I think was that, "oh no, you're not gonna do them, are you?"
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Only Grail songs in some way, right? Yeah. Be careful.
Yeah, I mean, you are absolutely right, and sometimes you can put the right preface into something, and it'll get people into understanding what this is about, and that's why this section is called "oh no, they didn't," because then people are already in a mindset that I think makes them more open to what we did, to the songs. And I mean, to cover Slayer, AC/DC, and Beatles in one go, that's kind of that's yeah. I mean, even to me, it was kind of, can we really do that? Oh no, we're not doing that. Okay, yes, we're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one more from Back in Black, one more from 1980, and actually Mikael, he picked this.
He picked this. Yeah, that was his pick. And if there's one thing in my mind, because AC/DC always have that bluesy edge to them, and if there's one thing, I might be wrong, but every time I put something in a demo of ours that has a bluesy feel to it, always end up taking it out again before even sending it further to, before sending it along to you and the other guys. It's kind of like that doesn't work for us. No. Or maybe we haven't found the right way to do it. So, so I was thinking the only way to do Back in Black would be to imagine if someone else had actually written it, or that we were covering someone else's cover version. So, so that's where my idea to kind of make it sound like it was originally a Pink Floyd song. So it's kind of modeled on Sheep, which we actually covered some years ago. It's kind of modeled on that song, and the only thing left as is the original vocal line and a guitar riff, but also the original is in 4x4, and this is in 12x8. So it's a completely different time signature. Yes. So and I think it worked really well to imagine someone else to do a cover, but in someone else's style, and it's kind of like a very epic, kind of very epic progressive song now, and so yeah, that was very interesting. And we also I remember us changing the keys because I had recorded most of it in E, and that was just because I was going to sing along with it, and just to make a demo of what I think should be done now that we transformed it so much, and it was much too low for you to sing.
Yeah. So E is the original key, isn't it?
It's the original key, yeah. And
just like an octave lower than the original, really.
Yeah. And so very typically of us, we have no qualms with saying, okay, we'll just transpose the bits that need transposing. So that's why this song is in both E and G, because we needed to transpose the verses and the choruses up, but I couldn't be bothered to transpose everything else. So so except the last chorus is still in E, because I couldn't make it work with the coda.
No, right. But that was great, because that also meant that was in a great what do you call it? Key for 3 female vocalists that you envisioned, kind of again. Hey, we need. What about?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I was thinking, what would Pink Floyd have put on as harmony vocals on this one? And I was thinking about all the female singers on Dark Side of the Moon and the Wish You Were Here album, and I was sort of hearing that in my head, that big gospel, and thinking that if there is ever a song that we can have big gospel voices on, it's this one. And also it gave me a chance to play a lot of Hammond organ, which is also one of those things. As soon as you does it, it's kind of, oh, that's Deep Purple, and it becomes bluesy, and it doesn't work. So I could do that in this song because there's also a lot of Hammond in Pink Floyd. So I got rid of that, so people won't have to listen to my Hammond organ outings on the next album.
Right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the world will thank me for getting that out of my blood.
Right. I will anyway. All right. So, yeah, Back in Black. No, not much left of the original there. No, and a little more maybe left of the original on the last one here, Strawberry Fields Forever. You're a huge Beatles fan. Everybody from the that follow you on the social media, they must know by now. So there had to be one, and I remember I asked you, why? Well, in the process, there will be a Beatles song, won't there, Kim? And you said, oh, yeah, I would like to, but I just can't find one that suits this. I can't find it. Isn't that right? You
Yeah,
struggle to find the right Beatles song.
I was thinking
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. I was thinking for ages, and the obvious one would have been something like "Within You, Without You" or
Yeah.
"Tomorrow Never Knows," and it was kind
Yeah.
of. It wasn't. I just couldn't hear it in my head, and I didn't want to do "She Loves You" because that would have sounded, as I said in part one. I didn't want anything of this to sound like ha ha ha. I
No.
didn't want this album to be funny. We took this very seriously, even though we had fun doing it. We are
Yeah.
still absolutely devoid of any humor, as anyone would know. uh, so and then I was kind of giving up on it, and sometimes that's when you think of you get all the good ideas. That's when you say, oh, it's not happening, and you just let go of it, and then you're open to ideas, and then this thing come about, and I sort of superimposed another Beatles song into it, like with Slayer, and one of the best bits of the Beatles for me was always the long coda of "I Want You, She's So Heavy," and I've been trying to get that into ANUBIS GATE songs for a long time. I mean, there is a bit on Andromeda Unchained, on the last song that is kind of like this, and there's also something of the last album on the Blackest track. It's also like this coda, and finally I got to do the original.
Yeah. Right.
So, but I think we did a good version of it, and if it's one of those, if I didn't feel, but that goes for all the songs, of course, but I would have to feel 120% comfortable with covering the Beatles. If it had gone on the album, I'd rather if I was singing, oh, that's all right, but not really, it wouldn't have been on there. So but I mean, it was a fun song, and you actually it was there was some we did collaborate on it. I mean, I didn't really know what to do with the verses, and so I can't remember if I asked you if you just said, okay, I'm gonna do the verses, and you sent me something. It's so long ago now.
No, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So I did some synth songs and a little rearrangement there. Yeah. And a bit of backing chorus, backing vocals, which are not on the original either, and some very strange one that got cut out of the final. I remember I did some very strange.
Oh, gosh, I can't even remember. Maybe it's ringing a bell now.
Yeah, there's for the last chorus. I think there's no backing vocals on there, and that's because they were just too crazy from a notes there for you to handle or something. It was just, oh no, that we can't do that.
I don't know. I think there are backing vocals there actually, but if I remember correctly, it was where the chorus starts.
Yeah.
Yeah. That little bit got X'd.
Something chromatic down there. Yeah.
Sorry about that. But anyway, I think it's a fitting into the album, that long coda, and it's a very, very psychedelic. And when we did the single version, the video version, we did change it a bit because we couldn't have 4 minutes of nothing in the end of us just rambling along and Morten drum soloing over it. So, and we also changed the first chorus in the video version to include some drumming, even though it was filtered and mangled with, because it would have been too long before the drums set in. And we had a crazy video shoot because we were kind of, getting behind schedule with everything, and we couldn't. And it was just before Corona hit, and we just had to. I think, as I remember it, I think we need to get this going before everything is going to be shut down. I don't know if I said that now, but I was kind of anticipating where this will go. So we just met out in a wood with Karina holding a camera and just did all kinds of random stuff, and you getting your jacket soiled and
well, you can
yeah.
see in my kind of jumping off the rock, we all did that, and when I had to, I slipped, and just sorry I wasn't on camera. My girlfriend is very she's pissed that it didn't get recorded. She wanted so badly to see that. But she
actually, you know what? My wife said exactly the same. What was it? What did he fall? Did he fall there? And said yes. You didn't get that on camera. No, we wouldn't have put it in. That would have been a malicious thing to do. So,
yeah.
I think before stopping this part, I think there are a couple of people that we should probably mention who was also part of this process.
Yeah, you mean apart from the guest musicians?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, the album was going to be covered in colors, and that we knew that quite early on that was the title of the album. But then comes the challenge of finding the right artwork for it, and we had an idea that it was going to be kind of like a paint book image with some of it colored and some not, and a bit like the second Deep Purple album called The Book of Taliesin. I think it's a kind of obscure album because the first 3 Deep Purple albums aren't very well known. Many people think they started with the In Rock album, but they made 3 albums before that, and that was the image I had in mind. But our good friend Lacey Muglow does these paint books, and I thought she actually was the one who painted the images in the paint book, but it turned out it wasn't. And she pointed me in the direction of Angela Porter, who was the illustrator for Lacey's paint books. And I browsed through her artwork session and fell in love with a particular image. And she ended up doing an even better version of it because it was old and she didn't have good scans of it. So a lovely package from Angela, and I love it. It's so vibrant when you look at it, and it's kind of the artwork reflects the album so well, I think.
It's very colorful indeed, and certainly not your average heavy metal cover by a long shot. I'd say it stands out. In our discography, it stands out.
Yeah, it really does. And I mean, one thing I have noticed though with heavy metal artwork the last couple of years is that it is becoming more imaginative. And I mean, I love that because when we started out, with all due respect to all the artists that made heavy metal covers back then, it was kind of, there was this thing in the middle, and then there was some mist, and then there was some, and it was kind of, and then there was all this Photoshop paintbrush and all that, and it was kind of like, I'm putting it sharply here, but there was a lot of very, very, very similar heavy metal artwork out there. And it's nice that people are branching out there. And we also branch out of ourselves with this artwork, I think. So
definitely.
that's nice.
I actually had an idea that they should be called Covered in Covers, and then there was a picture of us, of all four of us covered in covers of the albums that we were covering.
Oh yeah, well, not a bad idea. Why didn't we do that?
I don't know. I didn't put it to vote. Really, I thought, oh no.
We actually also had a very very fine image of us, just to we did have an idea for the back cover, which was us sitting in a pizzeria, kind of very yeah. And there's a mirror, and I wanted to kind of paraphrase the "Oh My Gomma" by Pink Floyd cover, by then having a different shot that in the mirror. And then in the mirror of that shot, and it would have been kind of a infinity thing. But as the project got more
bigger, just
I mean, as we got into the project and we got and we realized this is a serious album.
Yeah,
that idea went out the window because again, we didn't want that. I mean, sometime during the project, it became clear that this was not a second-class ANUBIS GATE project. This was this was to be rated equally in our minds, at least, with all the other ANUBIS GATE albums. And we couldn't be funny even in the band shots. And in the end, we actually ended up not being in the cover at all.
Right.
So, and I think. We need to mention a couple of other people too.
Yeah.
Actually, I mean, because there are a couple of people without whom this album would have never happened, or wouldn't have happened that way. And I mean, the first one to put the foot down on crazy projects that artists imagine would often always be the record company. Yeah. And I think this album just shows the incredible artistic freedom that we are allowed on Nightmare Records. And I mean, that is, it's very valuable to me. I don't think we've ever had Nightmare Records listening to a demo of something and say, no, I'm not putting that out. And Lance did have his doubt about the validity of a covers album. He did. And he said, if you guys want to do that, I'll support it. So that was very, very great. And he could have put his foot down rightfully and said, I'm afraid it won't sell as much and stuff like that. And licensing of the that's also expensive. And no, don't do that. Or put it out yourself.
Yeah,
he could have done that. And he didn't. So that was very nice. Thanks, Nightmare.
Yeah, thank you for artistic freedom.
Yeah, actually, that means a lot. I mean, how many record companies allow that with their artists? I know there are record companies who won't allow that and wants to hear all the demos and wants to have all kind of say in it, and rightfully maybe too, But I would get so very annoyed by that, and I wouldn't get any work done because I would be afraid that it would have been shut down in flames to remain in the AC/DC world here. Yeah.
Well, luckily,
luckily,
that's not how things work at Nightmare. Thank you for that. Yeah.
And I think we should also mention Jacob, who I mean, who could have put his foot down and said, I'm not just doing the drum mix. I don't think that's a good idea, and I won't sign my name onto that. And actually, the thing about me mixing the album, except for having the drum mix done by Jacob, is that it was a kind of cost-cutting exercise, because we knew it would be a very expensive album, and some people might be put off by it being a covers album, so it might cost a bit of sales. So we had to do it a cheaper way. And I'm very happy that Jacob trusted us enough to say, okay, yeah, sure, I'll mix the drums and record them, and I'll hand the drum mix over to you, and you won't spoil my beautiful drum mix with awful mixing. So I'm a big thanks to Jacob for going along with that. and without that, I mean, it probably wouldn't have happened either.
No.
So that was great. There are a couple of this is the without whom department.
Yeah, right. And without you, it wouldn't have happened either. So,
or without any of us.
right, but you taking on the task of mixing, I think it was a cost eliminating thing to do. Also in the light of licenses being bought, that we need to. I think we spent like, I don't know how many thousands. We did spend some thousands.
Yeah, we did, and it's a long album, and there's a lot of tracks on it. So I mean, if it just had been an EP, it wouldn't have really mattered that much in terms of the licensing costs. But I think it's. Am I right in saying it's the longest album we've ever done?
I think it was. It is. Yeah.
Yeah, we really filled it. I mean, the official limit of a CD is 74 minutes, I think. And these days, I think you can get about 80 minutes in there. But we did really fill it up, and it wasn't to make a long album. It's just it became that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Great. Yeah.
Yeah. So should we say goodbye to the listeners?
Yes, and we can hopefully you will get the CD or the download or something, and explore all this that we worked hard to make for you and for ourselves.
Yeah.
And we'll see you out there in a couple of years when the next original ANUBIS GATE album hopefully will be out. There will be no more cover. This is not the path that we're going down now. We're all only doing cover albums. This is probably the only one, I guess.
Yeah, so, I can't imagine us doing another cover album. This was an album we did to have a catalyst upon to get inspired to do the next album, and that's why I say, to me, it was we had to do this album because because that was the only step out of the Covered in Black kind of gloomy feel, and that has something to do with me personally. I had to do I had to be let loose in order to write again.
And we are doing it. We are on it.
We are on it. Yeah. I mean, I think we have more than an hour of written music for the next album right now, and that includes song that's only about 2 minutes long at this point. So I mean, it'll probably be a very long album, or maybe even a double album. So even for that, the covers project was worth it, I think.
Yeah, right. All right. Yeah, but see you guys out there. Keep rocking.
You.